What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we will be reviewing what will likely go down as the biggest movie of the year, that of course being Wicked. Wicked is the long-awaited film adaptation of the beloved classic Broadway musical of the same name. And as most people know, it tells the story of the infamous Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz and what transpired with her and her story prior to the events of that original film. Her friendship with Glinda, the Good Witch, their relationship, how they initially hated each other but grew to care for each other and eventually became very, very close friends. All taking place in the wonderful and visually arresting world of Oz. Now I need to make something very clear right off the bat because I just feel the need to make sure you guys know where I am coming from as I review this film. I need to get my biases out of the way and make them known. I am, in fact, get ready, a theater kid. I know, but are you really that surprised? I mean, anyone who's been watching my channel for a long time probably already knew that. I fucking love theater, man. I love it. I don't know what you want me to tell you. It's great. I love it. Theater is my life. I love theater. I don't know what to tell you. I am the cringe theater kid that is the reason people hate theater kids. Words that I've actually heard from old friends of mine. Didn't stop me from getting these, though, or these. So, going into this movie, I was already a fan of the Wicked stage production. It is one of the most incredible stage productions that has ever crossed the Broadway stage. The music is incredible, the story is so deep and emotionally rich, and so I was very, very excited for this movie, but at the same time, I am equally active in the worlds of theater and film, and in the film world, when it comes to like things that are being adapted out of things that I already love. As somebody who's also very passionate about film, I intentionally go in a little bit skeptical because I feel like that's healthy. This film was directed by John M. Chu, and it stars in the two lead roles Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo. The first point of skepticism for me in the lead up to this movie was the casting of Ariana Grande as Glinda. Full transparency here, I like Ariana Grande. I do. I would call myself a fan. I'm not one of those really annoying stans, but I enjoy her music, and from what I've seen of her in interviews prior to the Wicked marketing campaign, I don't know, she just seems super chill, super cool, she's funny, I don't know, I like her, and obviously we know that she can sing. The point of skepticism was that while Ariana can sing, she sings very well in her lane, that really pop girl riffy kind of style. It's not really the kind of sound you ever hear really on the Broadway stage or in show tunes in general. However, a lot of people actually don't know that Ariana Grande very, very early on in her career, almost at the inception of her career, was on Broadway in the musical 13. And she always dreamed of being in Wicked. She's been dreaming of this role ever since she was a child. And so when I heard that kind of a thing, I got a little bit more optimistic because I was like, okay, well, at the very least, she is going to treat the role with a significant amount of care. Cynthia Erivo, on the other hand, no skepticism. From the moment I heard she was cast, I was like, that is perfect. I was aware of who Cynthia Erivo was before she was cast in Wicked. I was aware of her Broadway work. I had heard her absolutely angelic voice many, many times. I would have called myself a fan of Cynthia Erivo prior to Wicked as well. And the final point of skepticism was simply due to the fact that this film is a film adaptation of a Broadway musical. Historically, those tend to be kind of a slippery slope when it comes to quality. The Dear Evan Hansen movie was fucking horrible. In the Heights, which John M. Chu directed prior to this, was severely underwhelming in my opinion, and Phantom hasn't ever really gotten a truly great on-screen adaptation, etc. So I went into this film optimistic and excited, but with a healthy dose of skepticism to make sure that I had a somewhat balanced experience. But I did want to let you guys know how much of an annoying theater kid I am, because obviously that is going to factor in somewhat to my opinion of this movie, because now we're going to get into my opinion of this movie. This film was fucking incredible. And one thing I do want to make clear, even though I think everybody already knows this and everybody's kind of already seen this movie already, this is a part one. This film covers the events of the first act of the stage production, and then part two will cover the events of the second act. And here's the thing, when it comes to the whole splitting a movie into two parts debate, it doesn't work in a lot of cases, but I do think If you're going to adapt source material and decide to split it into 2 parts, there is no better source material to provide that treatment to than a Broadway musical, because it's literally divided into 2 acts on Broadway, and each act is designed to have its own beginning, middle, and end. Each act is designed to have its own fulfilling arc within it. But yeah, you heard me. This movie kind of blew me away. I mean, I expected to enjoy aspects of it, obviously, but there is almost nothing negative that I have to say about this film, because the way I tend to try and structure my reviews is by getting my negatives out of the way up front at the beginning of the video, because I always prefer to end on a high note when it comes to film and filmmaking. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to let you guys down here and just get right into my positives, because I'm being so for real right now, I cannot think of anything about this movie that I straight up didn't like. There was nothing that I thought was bad. The first thing I want to bring up is the technical presentation of this film and how absolutely masterful it is. Obviously, there is CGI used. You cannot build to full scale the entire land of Oz. But they did build a lot of practical, massive sets, and it really helps with getting you immersed in the film, and I know it certainly helped me with that. They really brought the world of Oz to life in such a beautiful way, perfectly blending CGI and practical effects, and thankfully, most of the big sets in here are entirely practical. It is also a visually stunning movie, and this further hits home the point of how well they brought Oz to life in this film. There are numerous shots in this film that had my jaw on the floor, particularly in the finale, which we'll talk about in a second. But truly, this is the most visually arresting Broadway to film adaptation that I think I have ever seen. It's one of the best looking movies of the year. It absolutely deserves a nomination for Best Cinematography, because John M. Chu, especially with this film, is a director who knows how the cinematography affects the audience's emotional response to a scene. You can have a great performance, great dialogue, great music, and a great story, but so much of it that people don't realize truly does rest on how all of that is visually presented, and it is visually presented so well in this film. It's kind of a thing that people don't talk about enough, how a camera movement can make you cry, how the visual composition of a shot can truly tug at your heartstrings or make you feel an overwhelming sense of joy or happiness or excitement or horror. Cinematography is one of the hardest skills to master in film, and this film is visually perfect. No complaints whatsoever. The costume design is also wonderful. All of these costumes feel so unique to the world of Oz, and they also just look absolutely gorgeous. It almost felt like the wardrobe for this movie was a compilation of the best Met Gala outfits we have ever seen throughout history. I also do consider singing and the vocal performances in this film to be part of the technical aspects of the production, so let's talk about it. As I said, Ariana Grande does have a history on Broadway. She was in the musical 13 when she was a lot younger, and so she definitely has a history in theater. But of course, as we all know, she became a massive pop star, started making a bunch of bangers, gave into that pop girl vocal style, but it's also been very unique to her, and it's kind of her signature style, you know, with the high notes and the riffs and everything. And it sounds great. It's great for pop music. She makes very good pop music. But this film is wicked. Some of the most showy show tunes that have ever graced the Broadway stage. And the way that Ariana was able to retrain her voice to be able to channel these passages of her vocal ability is absolutely enchanting. Her singing in this film is absolutely gorgeous. It is incredible. I was in awe any time that she had to give a vocal performance in this film. It was great. And Cynthia Erivo, I mean, we've been known that girl can sing the Broadway tunes. We know she's been on Broadway. I'm Here from The Color Purple. Watch her performance of that. Holy shit. She has so much soul in her voice, so much emotional resonance, and that's why, among many reasons, that she was such a perfect casting choice for Elphaba, who is a deeply emotionally charged character. Cynthia Erivo's vocal performance in this this film is absolutely harrowing. It is something to behold, a feast for the ears. I could not get enough of it. And I really think that these two actresses did the original performances of the songs justice while still throwing in some new things to give these versions of the songs their own personality. I am a massive theater nerd, but I'm not gonna gatekeep Wicked. Isn't it like the highest grossing Broadway musical of all time or something? It's an iconic show. It would be stupid to try and gatekeep that. I am open to people doing new things with it. I heard a rumor that part 2 is going to have 2 new songs. I'm open to that. That doesn't make me mad, and it doesn't make me mad that certain notes and riffs have been changed in the songs here, because I think that they fit the visual medium of film very, very well. But now that we're done with those technical aspects of the production, let's talk about the film itself, the story, the narrative, the characters, the performances. How is it? Well, since I was just talking about the vocal abilities of the 2 lead actresses, let's talk about the acting ability. Holy fucking shit. I mean, I knew Ariana Grande had a history in acting, but never something this grand and this serious and something that demands this much of her. Ariana Grande is an absolute revelation in this film. All of your personal opinions about her aside, she is genuinely amazing here. This is great work. You can tell that she knows the character and loves the character and knows everything about her in such a way that allows her to flesh out this performance to the highest degree and make it sympathetic while also hilarious, while also resentful, all at the same time. Glinda is a character that gives us as audience members a lot of conflicting emotions. And that's another thing too, her comedic timing in this role is impeccable. My audience was rolling on the floor laughing throughout multiple points in this film. The whole Popular sequence, the iconic song from the show, Popular, that entire scene is comedy gold. And even outside of the musical sequences, just in the normal dialogue sequences, the scene where Glinda first meets Fiyero, in fact, the scene where Fiyero is first introduced in general, is just absolutely hilarious. I was dying, busting a gut laughing. It is genuinely so funny, and a lot of that is because of Ariana Grande's genius comedic timing. Cynthia Erivo, though, is an absolute fucking force of nature in this film. The entire emotional backbone of this film relies on Cynthia Erivo's performance, and she fucking delivered. Her voice is amazing, sure, but her acting is just as incredible. She exercises a lot of restraint in this movie, but she also has such an expressive face, and you can tell what she is feeling just from one expression alone. And it never feels hammy or over the top. It feels so raw and real, and it really grounds this character and this narrative in a way that you wouldn't expect from a story like this that takes place in a setting like Oz. But it is imperative in order to be able to enjoy the story that you sympathize with Elphaba as a character, and this film knocked that out of the park. The script here is genuinely flawless in my opinion, and I was watching this movie like a hawk for flaws. But I genuinely couldn't come across anything in the way that this screenplay was structured that rubbed me the wrong way. It is worth mentioning that this film is only covering the first act of the Broadway stage, and yet is 2 hours and 40 minutes long, which is the length of the entirety of the Broadway production, both Act 1 and Act 2. The original Broadway musical was based on the book Wicked, and so I have to assume, not having read the original book, that what this film did to extend it to that runtime was take a lot of the best plot points from the book and put them in this film while still keeping out some of the more explicit stuff from the book to make sure that this film is still somewhat accessible. There's some weird shit in that book, man, at least from what I've read. But what's really impressive about it is that I was never once bored in this film. This is a 2 hour and 40-minute film that felt like a 90-minute film. Genuinely perfect pacing. I haven't seen a film this fast-paced in a very long time, because you're asking a lot of the audience, especially people who maybe don't love musicals, but they like to go and see big movies. A 2 hour and 40-minute musical? You're asking a lot from those audience members, yet somehow they pulled it off. I don't know what to tell you. There's no scene in this movie that I would want to remove. There are certainly scenes where you can tell that they're definitely making an attempt to extend certain things, but it never feels unnecessary, and for me, it only ever added, and it only ever worked in the film's benefit. It only ever added to the story and how much it affected me. And the chemistry between Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande is absolutely off the charts. It is also imperative that you buy their friendship and their emotions towards each other, and you buy that relationship, and you do. These two actresses got very, very close throughout the production, and it shows on screen. They are inseparable in this film when it comes to the chemistry and the emotions of it. It is genuinely so endearing, and you get really attached to the relationship between these two girls, and it really works in the film's favor. And all of the dramatic aspects of this film are also handled incredibly well. It perfectly balances comedy and the more wacky, over-the-top nature of this story with the very grounded, real nature of the drama and the themes and messages and the emotions of these characters. Yes, it's sort of a cringe thing across the internet that we've all been seeing. Oh my god, me before seeing Wicked and then me after Wicked. Like everyone's just crying their eyes out. But after seeing the movie, I kind of understand, because I was also a puddle of tears during the finale, genuinely. I think people just need to understand that this is more than a prequel to The Wizard of Oz. Alright? This is more than a musical. This is more than, you know, fan fiction. This is a story that genuinely is so well fleshed out, and you really learn everything there is to know about Oz and about Elphaba and Glinda. And in doing so, it becomes so much more than the sum of its parts. It becomes a genuinely emotional, pretty deep, and truly complex, surprisingly enough, story about love, loss, friendship, romance, discrimination, power, corruption, politics, all of it. It's all here, and it's all perfectly balanced and executed so well. I mean, this is truly unprecedented. Yes, I'm busting a gut, slapping my knee, laughing throughout many scenes in this film, but there are just as many, if not even more scenes where I am trying my damnedest to hold back tears. The emotional range of the two lead performances, the emotional resonance of the songs therein, it all just works so well together. And as I said already, the way it is visually presented, John M. Chu is a director who knows how to take the tropes of Broadway stage productions and alter them to fit the medium of film. That's something a lot of film adaptations of Broadway productions don't seem to understand and kind of have a hard time with. It's the fact that there are certain things that work well on stage that don't work well on screen. John M. Chu, on the other hand, is a director who understands that dilemma, and he takes the things that work well on Broadway but wouldn't work well on film and alters them so that they do work well on film. The entire finale of this film, the whole defying gravity sequence, one of my favorite finales of all time at this point. Genuinely. It's probably my favorite finale of the year so far, right up there next to the finale of The Substance. Everything about the finale of this film, the whole defying gravity sequence, the editing, the singing, the cinematography, the movement of the characters, like all the blocking, the design of it all, it is genuinely just every aspect of filmmaking coming together in such perfect unison to make for such an emotionally rich and powerful finale that truly just hit me right in the feels. I don't even know how to describe it. I feel like this isn't the most articulate review I've ever done. And if you're worried that this film will leave you unsatisfied at the end because it really is just part one of the story, I'm telling you, you don't gotta worry about that. This film works as its own standalone, great story of this character who has been beaten down in life, who finds someone, loses someone, and rises to the top. That was a massive stutter. Elphaba's arc in this first part of the story is satisfying enough, even more so than enough, to truly make this film stand on its own very, very well as its own standalone film. Yes, there is more to the story, but this film works as its own singular piece of art. But I must say, I am very much looking forward to part 2, because I literally found nothing in this film to dislike. John M. Chu has truly mastered his craft with this one. It was a little shaky within the heights, but with this film, I think he has truly found the sweet spot, because I mean, I'm kind of surprised to be saying this, but truly, I'm thinking really hard. And just for me personally, from my own personal experience with the film, I cannot find anything in my own personal opinion that I did not like about the movie. Part 2 cannot come soon enough. Genuinely, everything about this movie was amazing. It's basically flawless in my opinion. People often say that they don't make movies like they used to. Here it is, a big movie with all the aspects of filmmaking coming together in perfect unison to make for a truly entertaining, funny, but emotional experience. This is all I want from movies. This is filmmaking. This is the kind of movie that gets me excited about movies, the grand spectacle of it all. This is what movies were made to be. This is what people back like way back in the early days of cinema were dreaming about, like when things like Technicolor came about, when CinemaScope came about, and building these massive sets and things like that. This is the culmination of all of it feels like. And how fitting that the initial source material is from The Wizard of Oz, which is a movie that came out in the 1930s, during that age of Hollywood. One of the first movies to use that amazing, visually arresting Technicolor method. How fitting. This is the culmination of all of it. It feels like the natural progression of it, and it results in something very, very good. Guys, as a fan of the Broadway production, I think that this film adapted it super faithfully, changed what needed to be changed, and pulled things from the original book to really flesh out this story and make it work even better in film form. It is a truly epic movie, and I just love that it exists. I love that we have this definitive on-screen adaptation of this story. It's just such a good, emotionally moving, and deeply empowering story as well. And I just love that we have a filmmaker like John M. Chu and two powerhouse actresses like Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo leading it. It doesn't feel real. It's almost too good to be true. As I said, part 2 cannot come soon enough. I absolutely fucking adored this first part. Nothing negative to say about it. I love this movie. Be sure to let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Just make sure you keep it safe and respectful and constructive. It's okay for us to disagree, but it's never ever okay to get nasty, because at the end of the day, guys, we're just talking about movies. That's all we're doing. We're just talking about movies. No need to get nasty. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I will see you in the next video, and until then, keep writing, keep shooting, and keep editing.